thanks everybody for tuning in this evening for our live Q&A with Johnny Holliday. And we just finished watching Johnny interview coaches Freeze and Loxley and Turgeon. Those interviews were done several days ago. And, some things have changed, especially on the basketball front. Brenda has notched her 500th win plus. And then, of course, Turge is in the midst of an incredible 4-game winning streak that has put Maryland back in the positive mode for NCAA tournament bid.
They did it for us.
So anyway, Johnny, thanks for being with us this evening.
Sure.
And, you're always there for us. We appreciate that. But let me, before we open it up to the audience, let me ask you specifically about what you and I have talked about before. And that is the problems that you have encountered as the Maryland broadcasting team in this COVID. I mean, you talk to the coaches about what they've been through, but what have you guys been through? How have you handled all of this, and what's it like technically?
Well, how much time you got, Mike? This is like something we have never envisioned before. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that this country would be in a pandemic, number one. And then when we can't do the games the way we normally do the games, it's been a real challenge. We are normally on the court, right there at center court. We can hear the officials when they call a foul. We can hear the coaches. We can hear the different calling out of the signals for the offense and defense. Your players are right up close. You know who they are. You quickly pick them up. But since the COVID hit, nobody's on that floor except the timer, the official score, and that's about it. Everybody else has moved back. So they have us in a suite. It's right directly above where we have been for all these years at center court at Xfinity Center. But the suite is way up, and the players now look like ants when they're running around down there. It's difficult sometimes depending upon what the other team is wearing. For example, it was Old Dominion came in, and they had black uniforms and they had maroon numbers. And that's very, very tough to pick up. Yeah, and you're not sure if it's a 5 or an 8 that you're looking at. So I am in one side of the suite. I have a partition next to me. The statistician is Brett Bissell, and Bissell is over about 10 feet away from me. The engineer, Tom Marquito, sits behind me. And I have to bring a lamp from home because the overhanging lights in the suite don't shine down on what I'm doing work-wise. So I bring a lamp that sits right here to my left, shining down on my papers so I can write things and keep the score and all. And in the other suite next door is Chris Nockey and Walt Williams. So we're not even together. If we're on the floor, Marquito would be next to me, I'd be here. Chris would be next to me, and then Brett Bissell would be over here and Walt Williams behind us. It's been a real, real challenge. Then you put on top of that, excuse me, the fact that we don't go on the road, we don't travel. And for the past 41 years, I've traveled with the team. When they take off on the charter, I'm on the charter. When they get on the bus, I'm on the bus. We all are. So that's been taken away. And now we go back to Xfinity Center and we sit in the media room with 2 television sets. One is the television feed, which we don't go off of. We go what the school feeds us. And the other one is the graphics and things that the television people use for their telecast. So if we get a good feed from the school we're playing, that's fine. If we get a Zoom that sometimes is not high def, and sometimes you're at the mercy of whoever's calling those shots at that school, especially in football. As soon as the ball carrier is tackled, they get off that shot. So I'm trying to figure out, well, where's the yard marker? They go back to a long shot looking at the field. And it has been challenging to say the least. But all my brethren in the Big Ten are in the same boat. Nobody travels. They all do it remotely for the road games. And nobody's on the floor either. Even the network broadcasters who come into College Park, they're somewhere else. When Dick Vitale does a game, he's in Sarasota. The play-by-play guy could be, if it's Dan Schulman, he could be at his home in Toronto, Canada. So but you know, we make it work though. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's the most challenging thing I think we've ever had to do. And I think we do a pretty good job.
Well, you know,
what I really miss, Mike, I miss the interaction with the coaches because we don't have any contact with the coaches now. I miss the interviewing with the players. I miss visiting with them on the bus, going to the airport, on the plane, in the hotel, pre-taping, pre-game interviews face-to-face. Now we have to do it by Zoom. Nothing is done face-to-face. I miss the fans. I mean, the fans I really miss because like players, I think our broadcast, we feed off the fans and we feed off the excitement and the enthusiasm that's generated in Xfinity Center, one of the great places to play, I think, in college basketball. And then I miss the cheerleaders, I miss the band, I miss the whole atmosphere. But that, hopefully, keeping our fingers crossed, we'll get back to normal for football and basketball next year.
Well, you know, it's as Coach Turgeon said when you interviewed him for our birthday bash celebration a little while ago. He said that Maryland has one of the great home court advantages of any school in the country.
Yeah, without
and
question.
here they have not been, until recently, have not been a good home team. And he attributes some of that to all that is missing from that environment and atmosphere you were talking about. Now, you and I talked a little bit about post-game shows for basketball. I listened to your post-game show after the Rutgers game on Sunday, and it went smoothly. But that's really a challenge for you because when you go down into the locker room, you're not in the locker room. You're taking whatever they're giving you.
Yeah.
And so you had Coach Turgeon on, and then a player came on afterwards. Did you know that was happening in advance, or you just take it?
We always talk to Turgeon, and if we win, we get a player. If we lose, I don't ask for a player. I don't want to subject them to any more disappointment than they're going through right now. So Mark Turgeon always comes. It's a sponsored segment. Our good friend Rick Jacklish Law Firm sponsors that. So we always have Mark Turgeon on after a game, and then they'll tell me in my headset who we're going to talk to. Aaron Wiggins was the guy we talked to this past week after the Rutgers win. So, and even when we're home, I don't see Mark Turgeon. He's in the locker room, and I'm right there courtside. So it's kind of like the same thing. This year, we never see him after a game. Like Gary used to come over to us after a game at home, and after a game on the road, he'd come to us and sit down. But Mark Turgeon prefers to do it from the locker room. So it's okay. It's especially good when they win because everybody feels good. And when they lose, we want to get Coach on, get him off. He has been so good in breaking down what happened during the game. Even if they lose, he's been magnificent. He is an absolute delight to work with.
Absolutely. Well, listen, let's see if we have any questions from the audience. And I think we want to talk a little basketball, but I'm sure people want to talk about other things as well. Katie, do we have anybody who has a question?
All right. If you have a question, turn on your video and unmute yourself, and we'll go one by one. Let's see. Hold on. There we go.
There you go.
All right, Wally.
It doesn't look like Marianne.
No, it's not. She's the boss, but the question I have is, and you've been an unbelievable advocate for sports at Maryland, and I mean, you're so much admired. But I wanted to just ask you this complicated question because, the most successful coach we have is Brenda Fries. She's amazing. And so how do you, and obviously, it's male dominance and I get all that, but how do you see her in sort of the history of college basketball, and not just women's college basketball? And then the second part of the question is, at Maryland, I never really knew the answer. How is the women's program success mirrored with the men's program? And the two coaches do very well when they're together. And I would hope that her success would emanate to the men's program success and would elevate the whole thing. And that was not really a question. It was a lot of slobbering, but so react.
I know with what you speak. I know with what you're talking about. Chris Weller was a great coach, and she'd been there for a lot of years. And it's always difficult to follow somebody as good as Chris Weller or as good as Gary Williams. But with Brenda Fries taking Chris's spot when she retired, and when Gary stepped away with Mark Turgeon taking over, you could not have picked, in my opinion, two better coaches, two better people than Gary and Brenda. And I think sometimes we don't really appreciate what Brenda Fries has done, what Mark Turgeon's done. To be in the same caliber as a Chris Weller, if you bring it up to Brenda, she's going to push it aside and say, hey, I haven't won games. The kids have won the games for me. But she epitomizes everything there is in a basketball coach. The players love her. She can recruit. She's a family person. She went through a very traumatic situation with her son with the cancer, and being able to balance the mom situation, the coach situation, the traveling, the recruiting. I don't know how she's done it. I have no idea how she's done it. I think this women's basketball program, if there were fans, they should have had 10,000 people at least for every single game. Because what she's done with this team, if you take a look at, she lost everything from last year. And these are all newcomers on her most of them on this basketball team. And look what they've done. I mean, they beat an Iowa team today. Iowa scored 90 some odd points. Yeah, that's not bad. Maryland scored over 100 points. That's even better. And they lead the country in scoring. I think she has to go down as one of the all-time great coaches in the country. Forget the Big Ten. There's no question she's the best in the Big Ten. And if you ask her point blank, okay, tell me, what is the secret? Why are you so successful? It's always the players. It's not her. But my opinion would be it's her because of her relationship with the kids. They believe in her. They know her philosophy. And she's always got team after team after team that just wins and just represents this university as good as anybody can. And I think the women's program and the men's program get along real good, real good. I know Mark respects everything she's done, and Brenda respects everything Mark has done. During our men's broadcast, we run promos for the women's team. Brenda's got one she made for us. A couple of players have made promos for us, and we drop those things in because I think it's a very important part of plugging that women's team. They don't have many games on the radio. I think they only had 5 games on the radio. We would love to get more, And I know there's sponsors out there that would like to, come across and pony up some money and support a very good program. And I think Maryland's lucky to have both these people, Mark Turgeon and Brenda Fries.
So just as a
If that
follow-up,
answers your question.
how do we figure out we've got one of the best women's programs in the entire nation for a long time. Yeah. And you think about her predecessor, but how does that get promoted? It makes no sense to me that isn't exciting because women's basketball is as exciting as men's. or maybe more so, because they pass better.
I started doing, when the ACC had women's basketball, they had me as the play-by-play person. And I worked with Kathy Rush, and I worked with Pam Ward. I worked with Bernadette McGlade. I worked with Henrietta Walls. I worked with all these excellent analysts for women's basketball. And the thing I found out coming away from women's basketball, the men's program is pretty structured. A lot of times you don't talk to a coach. You don't do an interview the day of the game. Most of them don't do that. Mark Turgeon does. I do him the day of the game. But Brenda Fries and her players were available, accessible the days of the game. No big deal. Whereas a lot of men's programs would never, ever do that. I can't understand why there isn't more support for them, because they're getting nationwide publicity on the Big Ten network that you can see anywhere. They're winning the Big Ten championship. I mean, they may win another national championship this year. They're that good.
They are.
And it drives me nuts that they aren't supported more, and that we can't do more games for them too. You know, a lot of schools, I mean, they really get behind their women's program, and I'm sure that's on the docket to do more promotion for them, get more people there, and to be able to sell the product more than it's being sold right now. They deserve it.
Yeah, well, if I may interject here, I think that one of the issues this year, Brenda is having an exemplary year. I mean, this is, as you said, Johnny, who in the heck would have thought she lost all of her starters? They have, they're turning the world upside down, but there's nobody in the stands. I mean, it's just, it's a whole different ball game. And it's really unfortunate because you're right, this could be another national championship squad.
It's also, it affects the players have to bring their own energy too. Since there's no energy in the building, there's nobody there to feed off of. And that's what amazes me about all the guys that play for the men, the women that play for the women's team, to be able to get themselves, to get the energy up, to get the focus up. It's almost like when you're practicing and there's nobody at a practice, and there's no home court advantage this year because there is no home. Everybody's the same. You go on the road, nobody's there. You're playing at home, nobody's there. You have to generate your own. And I think that's something they have done that I never believed they'd be able to pull it off like they have this year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Wally.
All right, Bob.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Johnny, Bob Pevenstein, how are you?
Hey, Bob, how are you?
Doing great. Doing
Good
great.
to see
Thanks.
you.
Good to see you too. So just quickly I want to ask about Maryland's basketball, but just thinking about Brenda, I've got a bulletin board right here next to my in my office where I have the men's Final Four ticket and the women's Final Four ticket. And you know, that besides winning the national championship, I was there in Boston for that. Besides winning that game, that was one of the best basketball games, period, to ever see. I mean, they were behind by like 15, and came back, and then won it or tied it with that long 3-point shot. And there was a small section of Duke blue there. But the stadium just ended up up there, the garden up there in Boston. It just became a Terrapin crowd. I was in a box that my daughter's boss had gotten some tickets, and I flew up that day before, and my daughter and I went there and had a bunch of ladies there who I think were athletes in their 30s or whatever. And in 2 minutes, I had them rooting for the Terps. And it was just great. It was a great experience. I mean, it was, of course, the Final Four in Atlanta with the men was over the top, but that was just and I went back to the hotel and I stayed there till about 1:30 in the morning when they came in, and the smiles on their faces, and every player gave you a hug. Every Brenda Free, it was just a memory forever. And I agree with everything that was said, that they should be supported more. But what I wanted to ask was about Darren Morsell. It's just amazing to me all 4 years what he's done. But I wanted to get your comments. I was listening to a program a week ago, something like that, on 105.7 The Fan in the morning, and I don't remember who the announcer was, but he was talking about Darren Morsell, and he was, saying, this guy isn't going to be All-American awards. He's not going to get this award or the Big Ten or what have you. But what he means to the team, and he likened it to another guy that I thought a great deal of, and that was Byron Mouton, who this fellow was saying he doesn't believe they win the national championship without Byron Mouton. And that, in my mind, is true too. I mean, it's a team game, and that was a great team. But I just get your thoughts on Darren Morsell.
Well, I never like to name favorites, but I think he's one of my all-time favorites. From the second he came to Maryland as a freshman, playing for Pat Clatchy up there at Mount St. Joseph. And you knew he's very quiet, even though he's opened up a little bit over the years. And I can throw a couple of one-liners at him and he'll come right back at me. But the way that he's handled himself and carried himself, and once again, it's always the team first. It's never about him. Over 1,000 points he scored in his career. And there's only 56 guys that have done that in Maryland basketball history. 56. He's got over 500 rebounds as well. There's only like 19 that have done that in his career. He's getting his master's. He's from a wonderful family. His mom and dad never missed a game until this year when they couldn't come out to see him play. But they did show up on the road. They went to a couple of road games where fans are allowed to go. But Darryl is one of the toughest kids, basketball-wise, off the floor, off the court, one of the most gentle guys I've ever met. And if Mark Turgeon says during a timeout, okay, we got to shut down this guy, he's getting too many points, the guy that raises his hand is Darren Morsell. I got him, coach. He's a tenacious defender on the all Big Ten defensive team. He was up for the senior class award, one of the top 30 seniors in the country. And then to see what happened with him against Rutgers on Sunday, the shoulder pops out. And I'm going, are you kidding me? And I've had a broken collarbone. It took me 6 weeks to recover when I was in high school. So I can only imagine. And to watch the cameras on him as they popped it back into place, we said, okay, that's it. He's done for the game. No. 5 minutes later, he's back out there playing again. Then he does it again. And Mark Turgeon said, I had to convince him, no, you're not going back in. Sit down. We got this game without you. But it's always the team first. And if you're to describe a Maryland basketball player, the perfect description would be Darryl Morsell. Look at him, what he's got. And every now and then he's going to get in double figures for you. He rebounds well. He runs the floor well, and he's got that leadership that you need to have on a team like this that has lost some key players. And I think he's done a heck of a job to keep everybody together and keep them focused on winning basketball. He's been absent, and I guess he can come back next year because anybody in the senior class has one more year if they want to. So we'll see what happens. I'd love to see him come back.
Be great. Thanks, Johnny. Thank you.
Hey, Bob. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Katie?
All right. Who is next? We've got Barry, Henry, Ed.
Bob and Elaine. Okay.
Who's up, Katie? Barry?
Let's see if Barry will come on.
Johnny, that's for Darryl to come back next year, that would be significant for this team.
Oh, sure. You're not
moving forward.
And Galen Smith the same way too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Galen's in grad school too.
There we go. Ed will take the next one.
Hi, Johnny. Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Just got a question with things being so weird, and I apologize if you've discussed this ad nauseum, throughout this season or not. But I presume that you guys are courtside, socially distanced in the when or at home. But what do you do when they're on a road game, and are you guys traveling with them and dealing? Are you having to go from the studio, or
Yeah,
how
we
are you
don't,
having to work it?
we're not even on the floor, Ed. We talked earlier, we're in a suite. We're upstairs in a suite, and two suites. Chris Nockey, Walt Williams are next to me in the other suite. In my suites, myself and the statistician and the engineer, Brett Purcell and Tom Marquito. So we have two suites, and we're always, I think it's suite 101, looking right down on the floor, but it's way up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then for road games, we go back in the room where they have the press conferences after the game with the coaches and players in the media room. And we work the game off two big television monitors. So we don't travel, and nobody in the Big Ten travels their broadcasters this year. We will not go to the Big Ten tournament. We will not go to the NCAA tournament. We will do it all remotely, which is okay. They choose to have it this way, and it's not the best situation or circumstance, but we make it work.
It makes it work, and you guys do a fine job, and even the others, when you watch the Big Ten Network and other things, but because everybody's kind of stuck in the same mode. But I would imagine from people like Chris, particularly, who's played and coached the game, and what Walt has done, that it must have a way of affecting their feel for the game. Having been there courtside, having played, feel that energy and feel everything going on versus just the general excitement or how you get into the game when you're watching it on television and then trying to absorb it and talk about it.
Ed, it's really tough because we're in a room just like wherever you are right now, and I'm in my office at home, and it's just like me calling a game right here, and there's nobody around to hear it except the people on the radio. I mean, there's nothing to feed off of. So at least when we're at home, we're up above the floor, and we do hear a little bit of what's going on down there. You'll hear a whistle, you'll hear an official yell out a foul, you'll hear the coach yell out something. But I really miss that. The fact that we're not right down there at the action. And when the fans are there, we as broadcasters, every school I think feels the same way I do. We feed off the crowd. The crowd gets into it, we get into it. And the players the same way. And they don't have that this year. Nobody has it. So you have to generate your own type of enthusiasm, I guess you could say.
Well, and you do a nice job with that. You do a nice job with that.
Yeah, we try.
Well, I know even with they're at the home games during timeouts, Walt will go and stick his head in and listen to what's going on in the huddle.
Oh yeah.
Come back and talk about it and kind of give you an idea of at least what Coach Turgeon hopes to accomplish, with them. And now you kind of have to guess, I guess, from instinct or past.
Well, something else we miss, Ed, because at home, Walt's got that roving microphone. If we see Gary Williams come in, he's sitting on the other side. I'll say to Walt, hey, go over there in the next time out. We'll get a couple of words with Gary. Yeah, he goes all the way around, sits there with Gary for a few minutes. Or if he sees Governor Hogan come into a game, hey, go over there and talk to Governor Hogan at halftime. So he can be all over the arena talking to people during the games. And now he's just talking to me and Chris and Brett and Tom Marquito. That's it. But he's the best, though. I love Walt Williams.
He's a fantastic man. He's really a great guy. Well, you guys, the three of you have, and I know you got Brett and Tom, behind you guys, but you guys are a great trio to listen to. It really is a hoot at times, and it's very interesting just in the game. Just all the elements each of you bring to it just makes
what's great about it is you get Chris Nockey, a former coach at American, Gary Williams, first recruit when he was at AU, So he knows the game inside and out. You got Walt Williams, who saved the Maryland program when he could have left school and stayed with Gary Williams, never went to the NCAA tournament because in those days, Maryland was on probation. And he comes at it from a player's perspective. Chris comes at it from a coach's perspective. And I come at it from just broadcasting the game. But the thing we like about Walt, we can both bust on him like crazy. Like we always mention the fact that, well, you know, if Turgeon's on with us after the game, for example, and we'll say, Coach, you know, you guys played the defense tonight was absolutely incredible. Something Walt doesn't know much about because he never played any defense, you know. And we can always banter back and forth, and everybody loves him. Everybody loves the guy. And we also have a lot of fun. We enjoy, I think, being with each other. We've been together for a lot of years. I think Brett Purcell's been with me 30 some odd years. The engineer, Tom Marquito's been with me 30 plus years. Walt's been around maybe 10 or so, and Chris has been with me 17, 18 years. So, you know, you have to put up with each other and make it work, and it does work.
Well, don't discount your hardwood experience with Rick Barry in your game time then.
And you know something, Ed? Every time he does an interview, he always takes a chance, takes the opportunity of taking a shot at me. You know, he talks about, you know, when I played with Johnny Holliday and his KYA Radio Wonders basketball team, I never got the ball. He shot so much. You know, he does stuff like that. Every interview he does, he always brings it up. And I remind him, I said, you know, Rick, I made you who you are today. Okay. An out of work former millionaire.
Oh.
Well,
Thanks,
John.
Ed.
You guys are great. Really, it's a pleasure to be able to hear and speak. You know, hear you, speak with you, and occasionally be around you. It's just wonderful. All you guys are just terrific representatives of the University of Maryland.
And you know something, Ed? In the Big Ten, we've got some real good broadcast crews. The Wisconsin guy is tremendous. The Indiana guy, Don Fisher, he's been around longer than I've been 42 years. I think Don Fisher's like 46 years. The guy at Michigan State's like 47 years. So I'm like fourth in command on the ladder in the Big Ten as far as longevity is concerned. And all these guys they're all equally as good, I think. They got some great teams and some great broadcasters.
Well, you know, along those lines, a couple of years ago, we honored Johnny. The Babe Ruth Museum did, and as part of that, we took a film crew into the press box when Johnny called the Indiana game, a football game, and the Indiana, the guy you're talking about, came over and visited with you, and it was like brothers. You know, you two have been sharing the same bread for a long time, and it was very obvious.
You know what's interesting, Mike, is that I've been fortunate to get the Maryland Sportscaster of the Year award 3 times, and that's, to me, is wonderful. Don Fisher has been the Indiana Sportscaster of the Year 22 times.
Oh, jeez.
Of which he reminds me. He said, hey, congratulations on getting the Sportscaster Year. You're only 19 behind me now.
Well, you got a lot of work to do, Johnny.
Shows you the level of competition in Indiana, though.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Great to see you again.
Katie, do we have any others?
I thought I heard Mr. Gossett. Did I hear Barry?
Yeah, I'm just observing, John.
No question.
Hey, how are you, Barry?
Hey, Barry.
I'm doing okay. I'm just sitting here in Florida watching everybody.
Are you down in Palm Beach Gardens?
Yes, I am.
Oh man,
I've been here.
What a life!
And I won't come back until April or sometime. So anyway.
Oh. Well, we're coming down there in the middle of April. We'll be over in Sarasota.
Well, I'll probably be back in the cold country by that time.
Yeah, and it has been cold too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's, you would like this. It's 80. We've had some record temperatures here, 88, 89 degrees.
Oh my
goodness.
Goodness.
So
have you been watching Maryland basketball down there?
No, I listen to it. I don't. I try to get you on the radio or the internet or whatever I can get.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I'm honestly, unless I can be at the game, I'm not much of a TV fan, to tell you the truth, for
Yeah, yeah,
for the
sure.
basketball. I'm just as you were missing, you missed the fans. I miss the arena. I miss everything there, and it just is.
I know.
It's too sterile. And you listen to the talking heads on the TV. I just as soon turn it off. And
Yeah,
of course, it's not the same as you know. And
yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah. I know.
I'm
I know.
I'm intrigued by the way you're having to broadcast now, to tell you the truth. So,
Yeah.
and I do talk to Walt every once in a while, since he's
Oh, do you? Oh, great.
oh yeah,
Great.
yeah, he's one of my compadres here. And
Yeah. He's the best. He is.
oh
great.
my God, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And you know
he's-
something about, here's another, we're talking about Daryl Morcell a few minutes ago.
yeah,
You look at a guy like Walt Williams, look at what he did. Look at the success he achieved in the NBA. All the years he played in the NBA, he made a lot of money, okay? He gave back a lot to the University of Maryland and scholarships in his dad's name. He has never changed one single bit from
No.
when he was a player to the way he is today. Am I right, Barry? He's still
oh,
the
absolutely.
same
Yeah.
lovable, likable, sociable, everybody.
Yeah.
He's accessible to everybody.
Yeah,
And
no question.
he's Mr. Maryland for basketball.
Yeah, he is, and he's a good business guy too. I mean, he's taking
Oh, yeah.
care of some of my meager earnings that I've made to accumulate. He's done good with it. So put a plug for Walt. So
You better stay in touch. Make sure you check that portfolio a lot.
yeah, right. He calls to remind me, especially when it's going up.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah,
Oh,
Have you been well, Barry? Everything okay with you?
yeah. All
That's
things
good.
considered, I'm doing fine.
That's good. That's
Been
good.
been a little like everybody else, had some tough times and tough year, but that comes with the territory.
That's right.
It do.
Yeah.
So
I hope to see you at Expectations one of these days soon, Barry.
yeah, if the place was open, I'd be there. I mean, if everybody could get in.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. In Florida here, it seems like everything is open, but you don't want to go out and get yourself exposed, so to speak, and everything else. And I'm fortunate. This is the one thing, age has a benefit. I did get my COVID shots. So
You got both.
yeah,
Great. That's good.
when you,
Yeah.
they feel sorry for old people. So
So I
Johnny,
don't know how this works.
have you had your shots?
it doesn't work.
Have I had my shot?
Yeah.
My dog has. Yeah.
Gee.
Yeah. I get my second one this coming Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
second
I've
one.
had one.
Yeah.
Waiting for the second.
I know. And hopefully
Well,
everything's picking up, and sooner than later, I think we're going to all be vaccinated.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it will work. I'm looking forward to the football season, obviously, as well as listening to the rest of the basketball season. But I had some conversation with Brenda too after her 500th win. So she's just she's just a wonderful person, and all that you described about her is true, and plus some. I mean, she's very, very, very personable and very very, very involved, I should say, and supportive of people. So,
And you know something, Barry, I don't think we emphasize this enough. Brenda and Mark are very humble,
oh yeah,
very genuine, humble, nice people.
yep. Yeah, they're in your court, or in your corner, I should say.
Yeah, that's right.
No question.
And
Both of them.
right now, people are talking about Maryland's men's team and Maryland's women's team.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
Men have got 14 wins and 3 very winnable games coming up.
Yeah. Now the Wizard told me they were going to run the table, so I'm trying to hold him to that.
Yeah, he can say that because he's not playing. That's why.
Right. Well, if he was playing, then we have to find out how good a defensive player he was.
Well,
But we know the answer to that.
I was watching the Michigan State game. They're playing against Illinois, and I think they're beating Illinois, and they'll be here on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, 56-41. Wow.
Michigan State, I think, has 3 or 4 games this week. So like us last week.
They got
So,
tonight, they got Wednesday, and they got they got Thursday. They play Thursday, and then they play Sunday here. They'll
Okay.
have 3 games in 1 week, and we have 1 game.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, that's okay. These guys could use some rest, I think.
Yeah, especially Daryl.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Barry. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you guys.
Okay, Barry, take care of yourself.
Okay.
All right.
Katie, do we have any other questions?
Any last questions? Ed, did you have
Yes.
another one? Oh, go ahead, Wally.
Okay, my last, it's not a question, it's a shout out because Barry Gossett is a home run in terms of supporting sports in Baltimore, in Maryland, at the University of Maryland. Barry, you and I know you're a star, and without you, the University of Maryland wouldn't have the stature we have. And thank you for being a great supporter for our foundation. So we love you, and we also are very envious of you being where you are.
Well, thank you for all those kind remarks. But, look, just, supporting Maryland has started, as I always tell people, when I was 10, 11 years old as an usher at Byrd Stadium. What was Byrd Stadium then? So I've never left. So it's been just wonderful, wonderful, many, many years. So. It's because of great players and feel like Johnny. I mean, he mentions the radio wonders. I remember when he came to WWDC in 1969. I started listening to him on the radio when I got there. So,
Well, you know something? I'm glad they got your name in that team house. Okay, Gossett Team House instead of having the Johnny Holliday Team House. You gave a little bit more money than I can come up with. And I don't think we had Barry on the air with us one time at halftime, and I think he reluctantly came on because, as anybody that knows Barry knows, he doesn't like to talk about himself. But I can talk about him, and I can talk about the impact that he's had on the university and the impact he's had with the learning center he's got out there for athletes, and what he's done for this school. You can't measure in words, and you can't measure in financial situations. He's just been absolutely off the charts. And as the gentleman just said, where would we be without Barry Gossett? Not where we are today, I guarantee you that.
thank you.
I envy you for being in Palm Beach Gardens. I don't like you for that, Barry, being down there in that good weather.
Well, I tell you one. You mentioned a little bit ago one thing about Daryl Morcell. One thing that makes you very proud, he is a Gossett Scholar in that program.
Yes, yeah. And how proud that must make you.
Yeah.
Great kid.
Yeah.
All right, I got your address. If I get there, I'm going to knock on your door with a mask on, of course.
Yeah, well, then I won't know who you are. The masked man shows up. You could be the FedEx man. You could be any man.
I know. Oh, man.
All right. Well,
All
come
right.
down. Come on down.
Will do.
Okay.
Well, listen, thanks to everybody, John, for calling in, and Johnny, thank you so much
Thank you, Mike.
for your interviews this evening and for all you've done for the Babe Ruth Museum for years. It's been terrific. Thanks to our audience. Tomorrow night, we're going to be coming back with a wonderful program on the impact that Babe Ruth's sale to the New York Yankees in 1920 had on baseball, on the American culture, on the city of New York, and unfortunately on the city of Boston. Got a great panel coming along. Old friend of yours, Johnny Joe Castiglione, the voice of the Red Sox,
Sure.
is going to be moderating that program. So tune in tomorrow night at 6:10 p.m. We will have a live Q&A at 7:30 tomorrow night following that program with most of the panelists who are going to be on for the show. So
let me say one thing about Mark Turgeon before we
go ahead, sir.
Okay. This team's got 14 wins right now.
Yep.
And they've won 4 in a row. It's the first time since the first part of the season when they won the first 3 games, then they had 3 games or 4 games postponed. They won another game. It's very tough to win 4 games in a row in the Big Ten. But if you look at what he's done with this group of players, without a true point guard, you lose Anthony Cowan. Without a true center in Jalen Smith, without a deep bench. Right now, he's playing basically 7 guys, maybe 8 guys every now and then. And the schedule and the COVID. I think of the 10 years that Mark Turgeon's been here, this could be his best coaching year that he's done to get this many wins and a chance to run the table. You got Michigan State coming up, then you go to Northwestern, then you got the final game against Penn State, and you got the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis, and you got the NCAA tournament. So I don't think he gets enough pats on the back and enough recognition for what he's done and how he's kept these kids together, how he's changed the philosophy about the last 8 or 9 games. And look at the score. Look at the amount of points they're giving up. Not a lot, in the 50s and 60s. And that's a pretty darn good defensive effort right there. So the way I look at it, I think it's maybe his best coaching job here at Maryland.
You know, I don't think you're wrong. I think that he deserves a lot of credit for all the reasons that you've just stated, and for all of us out in Terrapin Nation. These are very exciting times for Mark's team, for Brenda's team, and you're in for a good ride. You know, even though you're doing it long distance.
Believe me, I am. Yeah, I know.
You know, just keep up the good work, and thank you so much for being with us this evening. And you know, I will say this before we sign off tonight. When we did our first Zoom program, you know, all the way back in the beginning of COVID, I called Johnny and I said, "Will you come on?" I don't know what I'm doing, but we did that show and it got resounding numbers of people tuning in, and it kind of turned us on to this whole thing. It's a new direction for the museum. So thanks to the staff and the board of the Babe Ruth Museum for all the good work they've done with this. Thanks to Johnny, Mark, Brenda, Mike, and all of our guests this evening who called in. And have a great night, and we'll see you back tomorrow night, 6:10 p.m. for Babe Ruth Talk. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks. Bye-bye.
And make
Happy
sure you check
birthday,
out
Babe.
our silent auction. We've got a 2006 season ticket sheet signed by Brenda and her squad up for auction. So make sure you check that out on our website. We'll see you all tomorrow.